from the Better Business Bureau Serving Western Michigan, and the four of us here have been heavily involved in a brand new project called Trust Lab. This is an exciting project designed to measure trust in the marketplace, help businesses and other organizations enhance trust inside and outside of their organizations, and on an ongoing basis figure out what really works to improve the relationships between customers and businesses. Joining me at the table today are Rachel McQueen, who is the manager of the BBB Foundation, Isaac Oswald, a board member of the BBB, and Jack Daly, our Vice President of Sales and Marketing. And I'm Phil Catlett, I'm the President of the BBB Serving Western Michigan. As a board member, Isaac, what are the things you're thinking about when it comes to Trust Lab?
Well, first of all, like what you guys have put together here is awesome, right? The main goal, and if you're not aware of this, is this team here wants to make West Michigan, the most trusted place to do business, right? That's awesome. And with that said, it's fun to be a part of that and actually go into the community and ask some of the questions like what would that look like and what were some of the things that the BBB can offer influence to make sure that happens. And so the main thing that I'm excited about is this initiative, but then also let's start from square one. What is Trust Lab? When I think of Trust Lab, what should I be thinking about if I'm a business and if I'm a consumer, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, Isaac. I think what everybody needs to understand is we actually developed Trust Lab as an initiative here out of Western Michigan BBB, and we're really excited about it because we're providing a way to measure trust. We're actually doing research because we thought it was important to start with a baseline of measuring it. You can't determine if you're being effective in improving it unless you know what the measurement is. So measuring it, looking at opportunities to see where we can improve it, and actually providing resources to help facilitate making changes. That's what we're looking to do.
See, that's very interesting, right? Because I think a lot of people understand trust, and then you know it when you have it,
right?
And you know it when you don't have it, right? But then you're actually making this tangible. You're actually making it, putting metrics against it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's fascinating. Like, what does that look like?
I think a lot of it will fall under our foundation efforts, and Rachel, as our foundation leader, is involved in a lot of those outreaches.
Yeah, there's sort of two parts to that measurement, both the external measurement and internal. So externally, we've partnered with Calvin College's Institute for Social Research, and they're putting out this survey to over 500 individuals to take that as a consumer. How do they think trust is in West Michigan as a customer? And then internally, organizations, both businesses and nonprofits, can participate in a survey created by the BBB of how their customers view trust internally within the organization. So it's really twofold in how we're measuring trust.
Okay, intern, and getting that baseline.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, we're comparing that against a national study that was done in 2017 by Nielsen to look at different industries and what the trust index was for those industries. So we will compare at the local level, how does West Michigan really stand up against that? Okay. And where can we improve? And we're anticipating that study will come out in early June.
And the internal side of this really came out of our initial outreach when we were talking to businesses and other organizations about trust and what their image was in the marketplace for trust. And a number of these business leaders would tell us, we really have to look inside first because the greatest ambassadors of our organization are the people who work for us. They're the ones who know us best.
Yes, exactly. So, if anybody's seen any kind of these, studies before, it's typically external,
right?
And then they don't focus on what are my own people saying, right? Which is really cool, the fact you're doing it both ways. So when people are getting excited about this, and you guys have several organizations that are excited about what you're doing, what are the reasons why they're getting excited and some of the things that they look to do with you, with the group moving forward?
I'll just speak from our own perspective. Sure. We did the internal trust assessment here, and what stood out to me was I did not have my finger on how a lot of our people were feeling in specific areas. So I was happy with some of the results that said that they felt like we honored the employees and cherished them and gave them opportunities to grow and learn. But what I was not happy with was that they wanted more specific direction from their direct supervisor about what success looked like. How can any of us be effective if we don't know what success is? And so I was thrilled to have that feedback that then helps us to devise a system where we can do a better job of supervisor and leading.
Well, Phil, it takes a level of self-awareness and just openness to even find that out. I mean, there's a lot of people that maybe that data could scare them a little bit. So step one in the ability to grow trust within your community and organization is really the assessment and being okay with getting excited about the improvement of it. Not necessarily negative what it says, but being excited about that. And I think there's a lot of people who are excited and know how valuable that workplace happiness, all the stuff and it's really getting an assessment there and really looking to grow. So this has actually benefited the BBB internally here in West Michigan.
It has, and when Rachel and her team from the foundation are out and talking about trust and what are the gestures of trust and how do you build trust, humility and transparency and vulnerability are all key factors, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like we were talking about that internal versus external, it really is kind of a ripple effect that's created when there's trust within the organization and the leaders from the very top are sending trust down throughout their team. It can permeate out to how they work with their customers, how they work with vendors, and eventually with the marketplace, which is our goal, as you had mentioned.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's so important too. I guess I'm speaking on behalf of the businesses that our company is a part of, and especially the BBB. There's internal and external makes a ton of sense because, even from recruiting, right? I mean, all that kind of stuff. To tell you the truth, you can do a lot when you have your team right there in front of you. You can put them through training programs. You can do a lot of different things and that kind of stuff. But what's super exciting to me is, and that's hard for current businesses today, is what do you do before that? What do you do before they submit their resume? Mm-hmm. Right? What do they do after? What's going on there? And can you talk to more about that, of how meaningful you want to be in the community there? Because that's something that business owners can't really put their finger on 5 years before you actually apply for our position. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. We know that there's a trust tax, associated with business. So for instance, if you're not trusting of your employee, your fellow employee, or a customer, you're going to do more research. You're going to slow down. You're not going to advance the project per se. Whereas if you trust, you tend to work together more collaboratively, faster. So there's a quicker speed to market for projects, right? And which helps profitability if you're looking at it from a bottom line perspective. So that's critical. And we know that when not only do we provide this information to these organizations through the research, providing places to remediate and to offer opportunities to improve. Rachel, maybe you could talk about what our plan is and our program is with our consultants and coaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we, even as a team, you get these results, and for the most part, you can kind of figure out maybe what a next step might be. But we've actually vetted some local accredited business coaches and consultants that have the option to then be paired up with the businesses after they've completed that assessment and ahead of time if they'd like to provide recommendation and to just be a third-party resource to give their professional opinion on, okay, now what do we do with this information to find improvement?
Gotcha. So let's go right into an example. So, business here in West Michigan, let's just say for 60 employees, has really built a nice business. There's a lot of good people there, but always looking to improve and looking to grow, and want to be as meaningful to the community as possible. That stuff. So your teams come in and step one done the assessment. Okay, here's where you are, right? And then step two is not just here's where you are, I see you later, whatever.
Yeah.
Step two is how do we go on offense with this? Very cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is. And what's great is, not only does improved trust improve, the environment, it improves retention of employees and customers, right? If they trust you, they will stay with you. And given today's environment for hiring and keeping employees, that's critical.
And the word lab's important in all this. With our coaches and consultants and our businesses and other organizations, we're continually testing and trying out different techniques.
Yes.
So that over a period of time, we're going to refine on what really works, so that when we're working with a business or other organization, we can have tested approaches to enhance the trust, and in both an external and internal basis, how they're going to improve. And what's going to happen then? They're going to be more profitable, more productive, and a lot more fun to work in that environment.
Yeah, and the external studies are interesting from the perspective that not only does it look at the industries, right? How does West Michigan compare against the national level? It could look at location. So within West Michigan, is a particular location, quote, more trustworthy based on the metrics? And what can that location do within West Michigan to improve?
Sure.
We can also look at industries. Okay, we can based on what a particular sponsor of Trust Lab might want to do, we can do a dedicated study in their industry that's focused on measuring trust and see what they can do to advance and how they, as an organization, fit within their that industry's trust level. So
that's awesome. I guess the exciting part from a business owner standpoint, the exciting part is there's many things out there that will give you an assessment, and then there's many services out there too. Okay. Right. Very few times do you see, hey, here's where you are based on the background, here's the research, and by the way, we're the Better Business Bureau, this is what we've done for forever, right? And then here's how you go on offense and correct it. Like, to me as like a business owner, that's really nice to have not only the assessment, the strategy, but then the execution. Right. Like that's very, very valuable. And the fact that, it's not just the one business, it's the fact that you're taking all the data from all the businesses you're working with on this initiative, because it's not just one business. You're not going out to one or two businesses. Correct. It's West Michigan, right? That's really astounding to me. And I guess let's, we're diving into little details here, but like I really enjoy talking to you guys when you start talking about this vision of what the most trusted workplace, or what the most trusted community of that we want West Michigan to be. Like, tell stories about tell me what that looks like, and what really you get excited about, and what who's being impacted, and what age groups and stuff. Just dream for us a little bit of where this is going.
I'll start it out, and then I'm sure that everyone has stories they can tell. Currently, we're engaged in a project called the Trust Award, and this is where an individual is nominated and selected for the trust building qualities that they use every day in how they interact with other businesses, with their own employees, and in the community. And a great example, yesterday I contacted one of our board members and said, do you have someone that you would like to nominate for this? He asked around in his office, which in his case is at a bank, and he had agreement from 3 different levels in his bank that you ought to nominate this particular business. So there was agreement across the lender, the private banker, and the president of the bank that this particular individual deserved to win a trust award. Wow. And so what that said is that all levels of interaction, the way this particular business owner worked, had created trust among all levels in that interaction. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we could all be that way?
That's astounding, right? To have all roads lead to one person or one business that's done. That's awesome.
Right. And as Phil mentioned, there's multiple things within the lab concept that we're looking to develop. One of the things that we have, maybe Rachel, you could talk about, like the Torch Awards. We view that as part of this as well. There's numerous things that we're doing that promote trust. But when you take and you look at an organization that may be interested in the data as it relates to their location, what else can we do there in that location? Well, certainly companies becoming accredited helps, because if they become accredited, they've now gone through the process of being vetted against what are trustworthy businesses, likely to do. So, we can look and identify based upon a particular geographic area that maybe we need to focus more on accreditation there. That will help that area. Within the industry, we have sponsors who are lawyers, legal profession, and in the healthcare industry. They're very curious to see what they can do from a marketing perspective and a communication perspective to help promote and improve the trust level and their perception out there as well. So,
yeah, and there's so much research that has been done to show that trust, especially in the workplace, just makes people happier when they feel like they can trust leadership within the organization, trust their peers. So it ultimately too is just about having happier employees and happier customers, which means better retention, better business growth. Everything positive comes out of starting with trust.
Yeah, I mean, as I think about it, there's several different ways, and you feel it, you can look at it, like you just know when it's there. But really what it does to the community is it increases speed of everything, of innovation, of partnerships, all that kind of stuff like that. It all comes down to speed, because if we're already checking the boxes, and you have someone that comes to you and 3 different groups of people say that's the business, right? That's it, right? That's speed, right? And so we spend less time dilly-dallying, going and moving forward, which only helps the community in a variety of ways. Tell me, like, the Trust Lab is a great initiative, and it makes sense, for the entire community. What about the BBB and Trust Lab together? Like, talk about that partnership. Like, why is the BBB the ideal group to be leading this charge?
Well, we have over 105 years of history of working with trust. That is what BBB stands for. So when we looked internally, what do we have? What can we offer to the community? It is the fact that we stand on trust. And we looked at that as our core asset. And so we had an opportunity to say, okay, how can we affect more than what we're doing now? And we looked at, okay, first of all, we need to measure it. And we saw an opportunity that we had to engage Calvin Center for Social Research, and they're working with us to do these studies, and also to do the internal assessment that we have available. So measuring is the key thing to start with. You've got your baseline.
Yep.
And then, again, over time, evaluating these different assets that we use through the lab and that we test, and what has improved. So that's how we see it kind of going.
And I'd add a little thing there. There seems to be more distrust in our society than at most times I can remember in my lifetime.
Okay.
And in fact, there's this tool called the Edelman Trust Barometer that measures trust. And the drop in 2018 was the biggest drop it had ever recognized in the history of the study.
Wow.
And it's a combination of a lot of things going on. I think there's politics, and there's every media source to resupport. Rather than you trying to find agreement in some middle ground, we all go back to our own places and listen to what we want to hear, and
Exactly.
we never learn anything or change our mind. But we're here to really go after some key issues that are impacting the quality of our free enterprise system and our society.
Okay.
Underpinning this entire thing, and why the Better Business Bureau exists, is to support the free enterprise system. And if you don't have educated businesses and moral businesses, you don't have consumers that are educated about how to use the system, and or consumers who don't behave with honesty and how they deal with businesses, and people who are unwilling to listen and respect others, how can you ever get to trust?
Yeah, 110%. In the response, you're working with several businesses to this point. What have been the responses thus far? Like, what are we hearing here just right in West Michigan?
Yeah, that's a great question. What's interesting, I would love to tell you it's one solid answer from each one. It's not. The beauty of Trust Lab is we can customize this in terms of what we're doing on their behalf. You know, as I mentioned, we have a couple of industries that are curious to see how they stand against the industry from a trust perspective. We have other ones who just want to support the mission. The mission of Trust Lab, that to advance trust in West Michigan. That's one of their core concepts. We have other ones that we know that will come in, will specifically be looking for results from the study for them. You know, we will do an anonymous study just for their industry, and then they will look for actions that they can take. So we're able to craft a relationship with these sponsors that is specific to what their needs are.
I think one thing that's been great to see too is the sponsors for Trust Lab come in and they are sponsoring the program and want to give more to support. So hosting educational events here about cybersecurity or changes in dealing with employees and things like that. And so not only are they supporting us doing this study, but also they want to come in and provide education and provide their expertise out to other business owners too, which has been really cool to see.
Yeah, the first two, Mercantile sponsored a cybersecurity conference, and then we had, marijuana in the workplace is a very interesting topic now, and that was sponsored by Varnum, and so with BHS participating as well. We anticipate soon we'll be doing our next one on the insurance world, which is a really challenging topic for small businesses in particular. So we look, to Rachel's point, to provide significant outreach to our member companies.
And speaking about outreach, it isn't just to member companies, it's also to the general public. Next week, all day long, the Jenison Public Schools, 11th grade, I think virtually every 11th grader is going to be taught about how to avoid being taken advantage of by scams. And one way you create trust is by educating consumers so they don't fall for something, because what happens to you when somebody takes advantage of you? Your entire sense of well-being and trust is diminished. So if on the front end we can educate the consumer of how to avoid being taken advantage of, we are actually improving trust in the marketplace.
That is a really exciting thing for me when I heard that of what's going on in the schools. Like, that is so cool. You know what I mean? The person gets taken advantage of, and honestly, anybody that's gone through high school or gone to college, you get an onslaught of credit card, forms or something like that, or whatever. And it can be very easy to be, to get in a situation that you don't want to be in, or that kind of stuff, right? And the fact that if you can help people avoid that, right, and not have that chink or like in the armor where they're like, oh gosh, man, I did this and this is what happened, and now I'm less trusting. Well, that translates to the first job out of college, or the job during college, or that kind of stuff. Like, you already have that viewpoint, right? And so what's interesting to me when I hear that is what you're doing there is allowing for just a much more aware of trust in general, and how to do things, as you grow up and become a citizen, and being successful in your own craft, is you're helping out a ton of different businesses of people they don't even know is going to be their employee maybe 5 years from now. Like, that's amazing. Like, that's the thing. Like, the business is really hard to get there. You can work with them during the time that you have them, but until you know who they are or who they aren't, it's really hard to influence that. So the fact you're trying to get way ahead of any business can get themselves, and instill some of those things that will make them not only enjoy their work experience, but be very meaningful in that work experience as well too.
Yeah, and we're not only attempting to impact the education of students in that way, we're also investigating ethical and moral teaching in schools. We're doing some baseline research right now about how do we go about attempting to positively impact the ethical practices and understandings of high school students. And I don't doubt we'll end up doing that as part of this whole Trust Lab too. So there's a lot going on.
Absolutely.
We know the BBB is one of the most trustworthy third-party organizations out there, right? And people look to the BBB to check on companies, to seek help, right? So continuing that message and that mission to the younger generation, so they're aware of what we do and that they'll use it going forward, is critical to the BBB.
So it's safe to say that if we can improve trust within our community, like it's a rising tide that lifts all boats, right? And believing in that community mission is awesome. For specifically as a business person that looks at their own income statement and P&L every day, right? And has got a lot of stuff going on. So things that whoever's running a business or whoever is going, like, what are some of the symptoms that they might be occurring in their day-to-day life that Trust Lab would be very happy to have a conversation and actually strongly believes they could help them out. So what symptoms would be going on in the organization to where, like, you know what, I should see what Trust Lab could do and help me out for this specific business problem.
Yeah, I think some common symptoms that would be indicative of Trust Lab being a good fit. One that's really easy is if you're seeing a lot of negative reviews publicly from customers, that's probably a good sign that we can help through Trust Lab. How do you build trust with those customers, and how do you respond to that negativity? Also, high turnover among staff, that's probably a sign that the internal trust is not there. And the internal assessment will also show how many employees are net detractors, as it's called, from your organization. So you can assume they're talking negatively about your company to fellow employees, to family and friends, and that negative message is just spreading more and more. So you'll find that through the survey, but sometimes you can probably already tell as leadership we might have some of those net detractors, and what do we do about that to make sure that they don't suck other employees into that negative thinking about the organization.
And I can give you I won't identify who the company was, but when we had some nominations for our Torch Award, which is for the highest quality companies, and one entry was fantastic, and we have an independent judge panel none of them are BBB people, these are independent community leaders. There was a company that put in a great entry as a Torch Award for ethics leader. And one of the judges had inside information that said, nope, even though their entry's great, what I know about that company says they should not be selected. And that's just to reinforce what Rachel was saying about how important your employees talking about you and your reputation in community really is.
Of course.
And from an external perspective, the reputation in community is really critical. And if there's a public relations opportunity as it relates to the industry per se, or frankly if the organization is perceived, maybe perceived as untrustworthy, certainly we can fit a need there. So,
and I think from a positive approach, just if an organization cares about building trust in West Michigan, us being able to reach students, as we mentioned, us being able to reach the public, consumers, and business owners for that education, even if they say, well, we have great reviews and we have great employees, well, then there's something that they can teach fellow businesses about how they made that happen. And so if they want to give back in that way, then that's another great reason to partner with Trust Lab.
Awesome. So is Trust Lab specific to West Michigan, or is this being done across the country?
Great
Like,
question.
what's the current status?
We are proud to say it's just West Michigan right now. We developed a program. We anticipate as it succeeds over time, this will roll out to other BBBs across North America. There's over 100 BBBs.
Right.
They're geographically based. There is interest. They're watching to see how we do and how the program develops.
Awesome. That's awesome. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about the Trust Lab as far as it goes? I mean, we've covered a lot of stuff. I mean, the impact of Trust Lab is to every single person in West Michigan, really.
It really
which
is.
is awesome, right? Anything we missed? Anything you want to summarize?
I think we in West Michigan may have an unreasonably optimistic viewpoint of how trustworthy we are. We feel so proud of our community and the background of our community, but we hear every day of local West Michigan companies that are not behaving ethically and do not live up to the image they attempt to convey. And it's important to understand that even in West Michigan, there's a lot of people out there who are either unqualified or incompetent, or they intentionally mislead. And it's really essential that we educate everyone on the importance of building trust, and we educate consumers of how to navigate the system so that they don't get ripped off.
Absolutely. It's so true. It's the foundation of everything, right? I mean, and you guys know it here day in, day out. Making this place as trustworthy as possible it just certainly benefits everyone. So, like, what are the steps? Like, what are the process? I like what I'm hearing. Maybe I still have questions of how it applies to me or my business or that kind of stuff. What would you recommend an interested party doing?
That's a great question. They could speak to any one of us. We'd be happy to come meet with them, discuss what their opportunities might be. We can certainly provide the contact information here. We're easy email addresses is Jack at or Phil at or Rachel at westernmichigan.bbb.org, and we'd be thrilled to have a conversation with folks.
And I think Jack had mentioned one of the great things about Trust Lab is that sponsorship and engagement is so flexible. So whether an organization just wants to participate in an internal assessment, be partnered with a business coach, all the way up to being a key sponsor of Trust Lab, and lots of options in the middle for them to help us promote trust in West Michigan.
That's awesome. Like I said, I'll summarize it from, on behalf of the businesses I'm a part of and who I know. Like, I can tell you that factor that telling us where we are, and then actually how to move forward and work with my team to move forward to make actual change, tangible change. You can make trust tangible, right? Like, that's really cool. I'm excited for you. So, like, it's fun it's been a lot of fun to this point, getting to where you're going. It's only growing from here, and I appreciate living in a community where this is happening, because this is very meaningful, right?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, with that, anything else like that really helps, and I encourage anyone to at least reach out, have a conversation, figure out how they can be more part of Trust Lab, because it really benefits everybody.